What's going on, guys? It's Mike Norris. I'm here today with Parham. How's it going, man?
How's it going, Michael? Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you. So I was on Parham's podcast last week, and it was a really good one. And afterwards, we kind of reconvened too. And I was like, dude, I got to get you on mine because this guy's super intelligent. And I'll let you talk about yourself in just a second here. But he has this podcast called the Personal Process Podcast. And it's really cool because he gets stories of people and all the things that they're up against that kind of made them into who they are today. And I think obviously that's not like marketing, right? You know, we're not talking like tactics with email, but there's an element of persuasion in marketing and knowing people, knowing how to talk to them, and knowing that storytelling is extremely important just in terms of human life and communication. And I think Parham's kind of nailed that. So I wanted to get him on here to share his insights.
Well, first of all, Michael, thank you very much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you, and you calling me intelligent. I really appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much. Yeah, so just a little about me. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. I think we have the Canadian flag right there, so I got to rep the leaf. And yeah, so I'm currently a kinesiologist. I am a podcast host. And I'm currently starting a consulting business where we focus on individuals who are working from home to improve their efficiency, productivity, happiness. And that's something that I'm currently working on, as well as the podcast. And just a bit of the background. When I was in university, I took up a lot of, online as well as in-person marketing jobs, literally just foot soldiers going up, hey, how's it going? Doing this. And I've learned how to talk to people in a way that they want to talk to me, a random guy, sometimes with only a mustache. So, that's probably saying something to your viewers. And I've also ran for student government in my home university at Simon Fraser University. And as an independent candidate, I've been elected as a director for our student society, representing over 26,000 individuals, and also as a senator, where we actually work with other administrators to, lead the change in the administration for academics, which has been a really interesting process. And it's taught me on how to, get your pitch out there, how to frame things so people listen to you and go forward with that manner.
Yeah. Well, let's kick off with that then. I'm interested in hearing some more about, because I love that kind of stuff. I think people have probably heard me talk before about how I think communication is the number one skill you can have in a workplace today. Mm-hmm. If you can communicate verbally through written format, I mean, it's just so huge. Being able to choose your words in ways that will affect the outcome of any given situation and presenting like that, I think it's massive. And body language too, which I'm sure you know.
Huge.
But
Huge.
Yeah, hit me with the good stuff.
Yeah. So okay, let's go top level. First of all, major books for that: How to Win Friends and Influence People. Obviously key. But I'm not sure, have you guys heard of, well, Michael, since not everyone else is here right now, but have you heard of Influence by Robert Cialdini?
Yes. Yeah. I was actually just about to reread that book, like
huge,
right after I finished this book I'm currently reading.
What are you reading right now?
Right now I'm reading, I've actually got it under my mic stand. I'm reading Marketing Made Simple by Don Miller. I read his story brand book and I absolutely loved it. And then I went back to this one.
Right on. Yeah. So, these books, they just talk about how to hit people where they want to be hit in a, good sense, not like a punch. But, with Robert's book, with Influence, you learn about how to market effectively, honestly, and in a way that you actually retain your customers or your friends or your clients. Because there's a lot of people who are in sales that are like, you know what, I'm going to do something a little bit sleazy. I'm going to get this client. Yeah. But what they don't realize is you're going to be known as that person. That person's going to come up at conversations at dinner. That person's going to get come up at conversations with other clients. And you're going to ruin your brand. And although you might get a win today, you won the battle. You lost the war.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I like that too. I kind of freestyled that one, so funny.
Crush it.
And with How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's remember people's name, use their name as much as possible, and actually show a genuine interest.
Yeah.
I'm going to share this one anecdote because I think this kind of shows the power of this book. And this individual was someone that I kind of knew, acquaintance, and we weren't the closest of people, but, hi, bye. One day we see each other at the library, and I swear I'm literally just listening to this person, using the principles I learned in How to Win Friends and Influence People. And the influence, although it sounds a little bit negative, it's more how to communicate with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just listened to him, listening intently and actually asking questions, getting to know the person. I think it was 40 minutes, and the individual I was talking to said, wow, I've never had a conversation like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is what's going to be remembered. That's what's going to be talked about at the dinner table. And funny enough, I think in the book it was mentioning that individuals who are known as the people who are great talkers are actually the best listeners.
Yeah. Yep.
As the old saying that's probably going to get cringed on when I say it, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So use this more than we use the mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right, man. You're right. In terms of like a tactical application of something like that too, I interviewed this dude a while back. His name was Topher Gleason, and he's a sales guy. He had some really, really good sales tips, but really they were just tips to communicate with people and to show people that you're listening. And one of the things he said is after someone's done talking, pause for 3 seconds before you say anything at all. And that's going to do a couple things for you. Like, number one, you're going to digest what they said, and you're going to respond based on that. If you're sitting around and you already know what you're going to say, and you're just waiting for them to finish talking, and you're going to spout something off, it's not going to seem like you're listening, especially if what you say doesn't, go off what they're saying. The other thing he told me too was usually if let's say someone's just listing things off, like let's say I let you talk for 20 minutes.
Yep.
And then, at the end of that, I wait 3 seconds, you're done. What should I do? Should I start from the beginning of your 20-minute speech and start knocking shit out like that? No, I should go from the last thing you said, because that was where you chose to stop, because that was what you found to be the most important thing of all. Because otherwise you would have stopped previously. You would have just stopped there and you would have waited for my reply. So I think those are some really good things that can kind of tie into what you're saying too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, that's kind of like what I do for my podcast. That's the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Just bring someone on and talk about their life. And, people like talking about their life, and they aren't given that opportunity. And, just recently we had a guest, and we had the opportunity to go through his life, and we've never met prior to this, but this individual after, like, thank you so much. I had such a great time. And, they even gave me their phone number and let me know if you need anything. So this is the impact you can make just with listening, the connections and I don't even know how to phrase this, Michael, the level of depth you can change in one person's life just from listening for 1 hour can be greater than a friendship that's been, all right for 2 years.
Yeah, and not only that, you might learn something, right?
Huge.
I mean, that's like the unforeseen benefit is if you're listening, you can take things in and learn stuff. If you're constantly thinking about the next thing you're going to say, yeah. But clients come to us all the time, and they tell us that they worked with an agency before, and that agency was too prescriptive, over prescriptive. And what they mean by that is, they come in the door and they're like, yeah, I think, we can use some help in a couple areas. And before even asking what those areas are or what kind of challenges they have, they're like, you need SEO, you need social media, you need PPC, you need this and this and this, and this is blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you don't even know what I'm trying to do, man. You don't know my goals, you don't know my obstacles, you don't know my staff internally and who I already have doing what, and what my strengths are, where I want to jump into this and play with you. I mean, just having a conversation is it's just so important.
Yeah. And I mean, even one other thing that I would add to that list, you don't even know if they know what SEO is.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I had a guy before, he used to call it SCO all the time.
Oh my God.
I was like, I wonder what he thinks that stands for. I never asked because I didn't want to be rude, but I was just like, man.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Anyway, though, with your podcast, what what inspired you to create that? Is it just for, individual, to learn things from people, to motivate yourself? Or what's your end goal?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question. So thank you for asking that, Michael. So there's a couple of things. So first of all, I kind of like having these deep conversations. Like, like I mentioned, it just connects me with people easier. And I find those interesting. Surface level conversations, it's good, if you're just going out having fun with some friends. But these deep level conversations, like that's what really fulfills me. And like you mentioned, I learned some things, and other people learn some things. We challenge our points of view in the world, and we go forward. So I think that's kind of the basis and the foundation that I came in with this podcast. But once I kind of reflected on it more, Michael, nowadays there's social media, and families aren't seeing each other nearly as much because work hours are longer. There's a lot of stress. Other facets that will probably just go down a huge hole, so I'll skip that. But I wish that some individuals that don't have the opportunity to spend time with their parents or other friends talking about this kind of stuff, hardships, no one really teaches you that anymore. If you don't have those dinner conversations where you're like, oh, I got a failed mark, or I got rejected by this person I liked, or we broke up, and how to cope with those, right?
Yeah.
You can go to the most easiest things, which is, probably alcohol or drugs or other sorts of things that aren't healthy.
Unfortunately.
And, it's unfortunate because I don't think that people do that out of their own free will. And if they knew some ways to cope with it, whether it's exercise, whether it's talking with a friend. I mean, I've been privileged to have two guests to come openly and talk about mental health affecting their life and how it became something, and how if they were to go back, they would, start going to programs or calling friends, or, taking away from this notion that, men have to be super tough. Right. That's kind of just spreading through the media. And, I'm hoping that someone listens to these stories and changes their way. But in addition to this, obviously, young people want to know what it's like being, for example, a chief marketing officer. Sure. And, can I even get there if I do an English degree or philosophy degree? Well, Michael's done it, so maybe I can too. Maybe I can take my degree somewhere that I haven't even thought of. Maybe I could go into YouTube. Maybe I could go and start my own business. Maybe I could start e-commerce, Amazon, or even something, like software is for sales, things like that, SaaS,
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think that's a really good point too, is we're not taught the mechanisms for coping, really. Mm-hmm. And not, at least not in a way that we're taught a lot of other things. You kind of have to experience it.
Yeah.
And if you've got parents that leave you in a bubble, and you're getting participation trophies, and you get a bad grade, and they call your teacher and they bitch about it, and then you get a good grade, like you don't. And I get like the mentality, like you want to protect your child, and you don't want them to be, you don't want them to, you want them to have a better life than you did, ultimately. Is usually the case with that. And I get that, but at the same time, you got to kind of fall to learn how to get back up. And
absolutely.
And then too, just something else, touching on something else you were saying, just being genuine and authentic is, to me, the best way to build relationships with people. And I know it's not even like a sales kind of thing, but going back to like influence and all that, like I do think that a lot of sales that we get here that involve me are just from me making genuine connections with other people. And I'm not pushing anything. They know what I do. They know that I'm here. I'll speak to them genuinely. I'll be authentic. I'm not going to push them into some kind of area that they shouldn't be. And with that, I think they trust me. And, that's my ultimate goal. And I feel like that should be everyone's goal with their marketing to some extent, is you want to be a trusted person. And you need to understand that at any given point in your industry, maybe out of your audience, you've got like 2 or 3% of those people who are looking to buy right now. The other 97, 98%, they're probably set. And so there are a couple ways to approach that. You know, you can have a sales team go out and call people, and you should have that. I do think that's a good idea. But then when it comes to marketing and everything like that, you need to understand that you're only going to rake in so many leads doing like demand gen tactics at that exact moment. And what you should be doing is building a brand and fostering this authentic relationship with your customers. And it's I know it sounds so easy to do that, right? But really, that's what you should be aiming for. And I think a few brands nail it. You know, I think what's nice for me as a marketer is a lot of the people I know who sell to marketers, they're so great at this. They'll give you away some of the best content for free. They'll give you, you know, all kinds of stuff. They'll provide so much value for free. And then when it comes time to buy, and I know that they have a product in the niche that I'm looking for, I'm in. I don't even really shop around. I just, you know, I trust this guy. Regardless of like, I know the guy that I like who I'm following didn't create the product. He's just a part of the organization. But at the same time, it doesn't matter. You know, there's that level of trust built up. And there are different ways to do it too. Like, you know, we're talking about the communication side, but like Amazon, I trust Amazon with getting my packages to me on time. And if they don't, I get a $5 credit back and they provide excellent customer service. You know, there's different ways of doing it. But at the end of the day, I think just authenticity and being genuine are just absolutely huge.
Absolutely, Michael. And it's interesting that you mentioned that. We had a guest on our show. His name was Reese. He's a polyglot, so he speaks several languages. And one quote that he mentioned when we were having our interview was, I believe it was from Nelson Mandela. So if I'm wrong, Reese, don't hate me. But he was mentioning that when you speak to someone in a language they can speak, it goes to their brain. But when you speak to someone in a language that they are native in, it goes to their heart. Right. And I say that to say this, the impact you can make with just doing something that is very personable to someone is huge. And similar to, and I said this to kind of connect it with your point of being authentic. I think innately everyone understands at a core level what authenticity feels like, sounds like, and looks like. So when you provide that to them, you know, you're not going to their brain where they have to process rationally. You're going to their heart at a point of comfort, because people can sense this kind of information. And like you mentioned, Michael, that's when they develop their trust. And once they develop their trust, you don't want to go to anyone else because you're like, I trust this guy. He's always given me the truth. He's always given me value. And I want to go forward with this. So I think that's a very huge point that you made.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been on that train for a while, man. And I feel like I haven't really hammered it home, that lesson. So I'm glad that I had the opportunity to do so here. But let's talk more about you, not about me. So you've started, your words are going to be better than mine, but you've essentially started some type of entrepreneurship initiative where you're helping people.
Yeah. So the whole premise of this is, well, obviously COVID happened, right? So this was kind of a little bit in the works prior to COVID, but you know, everyone's working from home now. Productivity sank. I think I was reading one research paper in Japan where they mentioned it's about 70 to 80% of normal, you know, working in an office type of deal. And I think they were mentioning that their gross revenue went down on average 6%. Don't quote me on that statistic though. And, you know, people are unhappier, people are stressed, people aren't able to cope. There's too many new things to learn. Working from home has its, you know, hardships, like how do I study, you know, not study, sorry, how do I work? How do I, you know, be productive? How do I shut off from work? And there's different avenues to hit. You know, I have a background in kinesiology with an honors in neuroscience. And that's kind of the intellectual side that I bring to this. And with regards to the psychological aspect, I'm going to flex this MCAT score. For those that don't know, it's a medical college admissions test. And I love the psychology, sociology section. I actually scored in the 98th percentile, 98 for this section. And I just love it. I embody it. I mean, that comes back with marketing, right? It's just like, how do you connect with people? How do you lead? How do you communicate properly? And what I kind of want to bring to this is using literature that's available from COVID, using my background from kinesiologist to make employees healthy, to make employers happy, more productive, more money, and also using the psychological and sociological theories that I've, you know, developed from this, bring them all together and work in a genuine, personable way to help businesses go further. And
Sure.
the good thing about this right now for businesses who are listening and who are interested, right now we're kind of in the testing phase. We're probably going to look for 1 or 2 more companies just to work with us. And yeah, if you guys are interested, we'll probably give some handles to Michael to leave at the bottom of the podcast or something like that. But yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
So I don't know if you can go into more detail, but what kind of challenges, because I can speak personally, you know, me working from home, I'm back in the office now, but me working from home, it was rough for me, man. And it was very strange in the sense that I thought I was pretty introverted.
Sure.
And I know, like, I don't totally subscribe to the whole you're either introverted or extroverted. I'm pretty like middle of the pack.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how much energy I actually draw from being around people.
Yeah.
And just waking up every day and like sitting in the same clothes and sitting in the same spot and just working, and my mental health suffered big time. Yeah. And it was like, you know, I was having more anxiety. I'd step away from my computer and I'd be like, oh man, does someone need something from me? Like, I need to get back to my computer. It's my only form of communication with everyone I work with. What if something's happening and I didn't know? And, you know, I started freaking out about it. And, you know, looking back, it sounds dumb, but at the same time, you know, when you're caught up in that moment, it's a big thing. And I feel like, and I'm sure there are statistics to back this up, but with COVID and quarantining and all that kind of stuff, I would imagine that mental health is going to be a hot button issue here.
Huge, Michael. And thank you for bringing that up. Mental health has gone down. I can't put in numbers, but I mean, everyone's talked to the friends that, you know, have gone through some struggles, and it's not anything, you know, crazy or dumb. It's a huge change in our life. You know, our habits have all been changed out. We'd have to work from home. I mean, you know, like kids running around and all that jazz. Yeah. But one interesting point that I found very cool, you know, you'd think that introverts would actually have less of a change because, you know, introverts like being with themselves and extroverts just love people. But one of the research studies that I was reading was mentioning that the introverts were actually hit harder than the extroverts. Crazy, right? Yeah. The rationale in the paper was saying that, you know, in an office setting, the introverts would always have a way to connect, you know, just going through the water, getting some water. Oh, how's it going? Oh, hey, I'm good. But now when everyone's at home, they have to take way more initiative to actually, you know, say hi to Michael, say like, hey man, that's a sweet haircut you got, you know?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, it's so many different levels. But yeah, that's just one thing about it. If you want to go in further, feel free. And
yeah. Well, it's interesting, man, because it's something that we all face, and every business right now is kind of facing it. I mean, either you're an essential worker and you're on the front lines, which is hard enough as it is, or, you know, unfortunately, maybe you might be furloughed, or you have some employees that are furloughed and they're at home. And so we've all got these different hardships that are happening, but at the end of the day, you know, business has to go on too. And so we're all trying to like collectively come together to make this thing work. And nobody has experience in this. I think we're all kind of, you know, and depending on what news station you watch and where you get your info from, everyone's got different opinions, depending on what states you're in and your political affiliations, you've got different opinions. And, you know, I don't know that I want to cross over into that territory, but it is something we all have to face. And it's, I think it's good to bring those kind of things to the forefront. So I'm glad you're doing that. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And I'll give one tip for all the businesses that are looking for just one. There's one thing that we bring that's very minor, but notifications. Okay. Sounds very basic, but you know, what happens when you see a notification? Thankfully, since I have a kinesiology background, I kind of have a little bit of the science element to it. And that's what I connect, right? You know, the minute to the macro, the micro to the macro. And one of the things with notifications, there was a study where essentially when a notification comes up, the individual's heart rate and blood pressure tends to rise. All right. Interesting. Right? Yeah. So why is this important, right? Well, what ends up happening when your heart rate is rising, there's a little bit of stress released, right? When the stress is released, the hormone's called cortisol. Now, long-term cortisol, especially if you're getting notifications throughout the day, goes into a region of the brain called the frontal cortex or the frontal lobe. And that's where the decisions are made. That's where, complex movement patterns are made. But in terms of business, it's where your decision-making processes are. And essentially, if this is, diminished, you're not going to have optimal efficiency or productivity. And beyond that, imagine you're in a flow state. You got a great day going. Michael's locked down 7 companies because he's an absolute beauty. And then 5 notifications pop up, and it doesn't even really matter what it is. Just that red sign on your app or whatever, or just a notification when you swipe down on your phone, that's enough to kick your flow out to the curb. Then you have to start again from 0. And who knows if you can even get that. So just by deleting notifications from your computer, leaving your phone in an absolutely different room, turning it off ideally, this will change your level of productivity definitively.
That makes a ton of sense. Admittedly, I only saw the headline the other day, but it was based around essentially what you just said, that the more notifications you get, the more stressed out you are. And
absolutely.
I know a little bit about cortisol. You probably have more background in this than you definitely have more background in this than I do. But are you familiar with ashwagandha? Because I know some people who have started taking that to reduce cortisol specifically is what it's supposed to do in the body. And I don't know. I just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
I'm not too sure on ashwagandha, and since I'm not a medical professional, although I am aiming to get there, I'm actually waiting on applications for the cycle. I feel like it'd be a disservice to give any information on that one.
All right, yeah, no problem. I'll endorse it then. You should try it. No, I don't listen to me either. I just do marketing.
So what's that been said? It just decreases cortisol and kind of makes you calmer?
From what I know about it, that's essentially what it does. And I think it can have additional impact on men because from what I know of I'm gonna mess this up, but I think there are some pathways that are shared between testosterone and cortisol. And when cortisol is high, testosterone is a little bit lower. And so it's theoretically possible to boost your testosterone a little bit by lowering your cortisol. Whether or not that's I don't think you should use this in place of steroids, or I don't think you should use steroids. But yeah, who knows? It's probably a minute thing. But I have just anecdotally, I've tried it and I felt a lot less stress using it, and I've recommended it to some other people, and they like it as well. So,
sweet.
Hey, yeah, could help with the workday stresses.
No,
but sure. You've been an entrepreneur in some other settings as well. And you've had a variety of marketing roles. I know you've done some SEO.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that stuff?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate because one of my dad's friends when I was young was really big into web hosting back in like 2002, 2003. And I'm still a young guy, right? Like I'm mid-20s. So very young. I started like developing websites, at a very young age and using web hosting, securing domain names and all that jazz. So I kind of looked in SEO in that direction first, looking at the Google Keyword Planner, getting the terms, trying to develop blogs. Granted, I'm still a kid, so I probably sucked at this.
Sure.
But, it kind of just showed me that the internet is something that I like doing, and it's something that I'm relatively good at. It's fun. It's interesting. There's always something new to learn. And, that kind of took a little bit of a pause in high school. And I went to university, and this was a moment that was very important for me. And at this moment, it's going to sound very weird. So I was just, walking home from the library, and I scroll on Facebook, and I notice on the textbook group, and that's where everyone sells their old textbooks because textbooks are way too expensive.
Oh, yeah.
That's another tangent.
Yeah.
And someone posted, hey, we have this entrepreneurship incubator. There's going to be speakers from around Vancouver, individuals who have just, started their own business, achieved success. And I had an idea at the time. I'm just like, I don't really know about these people. And there's just a random post. Started walking. Click. Submitted my name. And before I know it, I'm going in and, oh, Michael, I can't even tell you, man. Like, as a pre-med student, I've done the work. I think I'm relatively smart, but it's more putting in that effort.
Sure.
But I tell you, Michael, I went to this first meeting where they had their first speaker. I took everything in. I just loved the experience. The speakers were amazing. Like every week was a new topic: marketing, SEO, branding, pitching, everything. It just hit me so hard. And at the end of it, there was a competition, and I was a science student. This was like my first official thing. There were people from different universities, and even like the entrepreneurship concentration at Simon Fraser. And I pitched my product and won. And, you know, that was a moment where I'm like, you know, I may not be the smartest person in the room, but creativity and just taking a product and, you know, going forward with it is something that I excel in. And I think regardless of whatever failures anyone has in life, just having this skill, it's good for marketing. It's good for, you know, just talking it, discussion between your team and giving different ideas out. And regardless of where you are in your own personal process, this allowed me to feel a lot more confident about myself. And yeah, I just went through with it. I started another business after, and, you know, that one we kind of took a pause in after finals, and we did a little bit more research, and it was a lot of work. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to focus on school. And I had the MCAT exam coming up after, so I took a pause. That one's currently staying there, but, you know, we're starting the podcasting thing and the working from home, which I'm a little bit more passionate about right now. And this is something that I want to pursue, since a lot more people are affected by it too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think you've got a pretty unique perspective in that you've started up 3 to 4 different things right now. If you count the podcast, 4.
Yeah.
What have you learned? And because I think this is sort of common in that usually people don't get it right the first time they decide they want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I'd love if you could share some knowledge.
Absolutely. So 2 other things that I actually just realized I forgot. I actually started 2 e-commerce shops too, which is something that's super cool. Yeah. So the things that I've learned, first thing, I would, you know, they say like tell people that you're going to do things, like, you know, just post on it and let people know that you're doing things.
Yeah.
But even right now with my podcast, you know, Michael, I haven't even shared this to my own social network. And the reason for that is I want to just see if I actually enjoy it. And I'm not just doing something just to say like, I'm continuing with this and I didn't give up, right? So I don't feel embarrassed. And that's what I did in a couple of businesses. And I'm not sure if that was a detriment for me, but that's something I would change. The other thing that I would change is, you know, don't be worried. When I started my first e-commerce shop, I had no idea what I was doing, you know. I will give a shout out to my friend David Kings, who was my mentor, and, you know, he went from literally $0 to 7 figures revenue. I think it's 8 figures too, but I probably put 7 figures in the video.
Good guy to know.
Oh yeah, we have him on our podcast too, which is a pretty cool story. But, you know, like, you just got to keep going through. You learn and you try to find your own resources and do it not to make money per se, but do it because you enjoy it. And the skills that I learned in e-commerce, the skills that I learned through starting my own business, it doesn't matter if they succeed. I've taken so much value from marketing. I've taken so much value from SEO. I've taken so much value from communication from these roles. And, you know, I think the mindset in today's society is you need to do something, you need to be successful, you need to post it on Instagram. I'm not about that. You know, I'm about doing something that you like. If it makes you money in the future, great. If not, you've learned something from it. From podcasting right now, you know, like, I've learned on how much easier it would be to meet individuals just through starting a podcast. And I think if your viewers are in sales, if they're in marketing, you guys need to make a podcast right now. I don't care what you talk about, you know, make a podcast, go forward with it. It's going to introduce you to people that you'd never think you'd meet. And I think those would be the takeaways, man. Yeah.
I can super attest to the podcast. I just personally, man, I've gotten a lot better at what I do just by having conversations with other people. And I'm not talking about getting better at interviewing, which I do think I've gotten better at. If you want, don't watch some of the first episodes, actually. I was going to suggest compare and contrast, but just don't. But no, man, I like marketing stuff. I pick up from other people, and they're like, oh, I was doing this and this and this. And I'm like, damn, I never even thought of that. That's a great idea. I just talked to this random stranger who I just met or who was recommended to me, and you know, they're dropping knowledge on me. But I love what you said about the passion and holding yourself accountable and just the other takeaways, because obviously the main takeaway, right, is you want to generate revenue and then you want to become profitable.
Yep.
That's everyone's goal, but
Yep.
there are so many other things like the life journey of jumping into entrepreneurship. It can be extremely exciting, and it's risky, but it's also extremely rewarding in some sense when you really get it going. So you take that risk, and with greater risk comes greater reward, I think. And if I ever think of a good idea, maybe I'll become an entrepreneur. Who knows? But I'm very happy here, Wilbur, my boss. I'm very happy here. No plans to leave.
Yeah. And Michael, just one thing that I just want to add really quickly. I learned this in one of my cognitive science courses, and I found it very interesting. And I think this is another takeaway that businesses can kind of adopt too. There is something called a value equation. I'm not sure exactly which theory it was from, but essentially the value, which is if you computed every single task in your life and goals and all that, and you put it into a list, and the highest value would take priority at that time. So this equation, I'll probably give it to a text version so it's a little bit more understandable, is equal to the reward that you derive from attaining that goal or thing times the probability of success. Okay, so how likely it is and how much reward you get over the delay, how long it takes to get that reward, times general impulsiveness. And this is more or less the constant factor depending on people and how impulsive they are. So why is this important and what does this mean? When you have a great reward, such as I'm going to be a millionaire, and the probability of success is relatively low, and this is kind of a factor that you can't even modulate in the way that you think. That's why thinking positively makes a huge difference on how much work you put in. But if this delay between you becoming a millionaire and where you are now is way too far, the value goes down because it's divided, right? So if that delay is just huge, it goes down steeply, right? And why I mentioned to do things because you like it. When you like it and you enjoy the process, the probability of success is 100%. And although the reward may be lower and maybe much lower, the delay is negligible. And because I'd say it's less than one, and it just shoots up, right? The graph shoots up. It's at this point. And even though the reward is minimal, compared to being a millionaire, it's here. So this is going to keep you higher on the task list. You're more likely to do it. You're more likely to persevere. And wow, that sounded really smart and cool. And I'm happy I brought that up.
Kind of brushed it on. Damn.
Yeah.
On that note, though, man, I've found too that I might ask you this on your podcast actually. Are you familiar with Naval Ravikant?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so he's a guy. He's still around today. He's big on Twitter. I think he has his own podcast. He's been on Joe Rogan a couple of times.
Sweet.
But he essentially has this mentality to develop an hourly rate for yourself of what you think you are worth, what an hour of your time is worth. And if someone asks you to do something that would reward you with less than your hourly rate, you say no, and you don't do it. So if someone's like, yeah, I'd love to grab coffee. No, can't do it. I'm focused on these important tasks and everything. But ultimately, I do think it boils down to passion, because if you're, I can talk about this, like my MBA program that I'm currently in, I'm actually in my last class. I'm super excited to finish it up.
Congrats.
But I'm excited to finish it up because I hate it. And and it's been a slog, man. But marketing and podcasting and doing all this stuff, I absolutely love it. It's like not even work, and it's so rewarding. And to me, you can always, I think it's amazing to set goals. Goals are awesome, but once you hit that goal and you land at that plateau, you're there for a little bit and you're happy and you've got that going on. But then what?
Yeah.
What then? Like, cause 99% of your time is spent in pursuit of those goals. Yeah. And then 1% is when you actually accomplish it. You have like the big, everything. Yeah. But so many people, like that 99% of the time, if you're just slogging through life and you hate it, maybe you picked the wrong goal. You should enjoy the process, the personal process. Going back to your podcast name, like it's the journey, I think.
Absolutely.
More so than it is the outcome.
Absolutely, Michael. And it's interesting when you mentioned that. I remember hearing a graduation speech from a valedictorian at a U.S. high school, I believe. And he was mentioning that, like before I became valedictorian, I was so hyped up, but now I'm here and it's really not what I imagined, and it's going to go away, the feelings that I have. And that hits what you're mentioning. And keeping also in mind with what you're mentioning with being genuine and, helping people and how you feel after, right? We're talking about, for example, salesmen who are trying to use sneaky tactics.
Yep.
You can get a sale and you can get that reward maybe a little bit quicker, but that feeling that you have to bring with you home is not only going to transfer to all the individuals that you're in contact with, your friends, your family, and all that, but it's going to make you not like your job. And I think in the How to Win Friends and Influence People, or Influence by Cialdini, was mentioning that these individuals are the ones who are likely to skip work or call in sick more or quit because they're not doing things that are right for them. And innately their body knows this, right?
Yeah.
So I think those are huge points. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I really feel you on that point. I wish I had more to add, but I think I summed up my points pretty well. But thank you, Parham. This has been really, really great. And if people want to get in touch with you, reach out to you, connect with the podcast, how should they best do that?
Absolutely. So right now we're just, transitioning from WordPress.com to WordPress.org. So I'll leave the WordPress email in the description below. But right now, the email for contacting about the working from home consulting is personalprocesspodcast@gmail.com. We are available on YouTube. We are available on pretty much every single podcast platform. And we're always looking for amazing guests who have cool, unique stories. So feel free to hit that email up for either the consulting, getting into the podcast, or anything else that you want to share. And Michael, thank you very much for having me on, my friend. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, all the best.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it. This has been awesome. And if you've got any friends that you think would be good to come on this show to educate some marketing people, let me know. I'd be happy to bring them on.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Thank you, Parham.
Thank you.